in the KZN, and now questionable here in the Nelson Mandela Bay, with a current result standing at 42.23 for the African National Congress, 42.23 for the African National Congress, and 37.75 for the Democratic Alliance.
Yeah, the first thing is that on the metros, when it comes to the metros, it's unwise to comment before the CSIR has actually made their findings known about that metro. For an instance, if those results are coming largely from the black townships, a number of the votes that are coming, as opposed to the areas where the DA has got a lot of support, this could be easily misleading. So that's the first thing we have to consider. The second thing we have to consider is that these elections of the metros are no longer about getting 50% or more. Then the critical number here is getting to 40 in the 40s, so that you can be the one who leads the municipality. Controlling the metro is a long story these days because of those factors. And the last
nearly
factor,
impossible, actually.
It's nearly impossible. So that history, that's history. Let's put it that way. Then the last thing to consider, which has got another factor, is the issue when your reporters tell us that there's already a low voter turnout in those areas. We know the people who express their opinions by not voting are ANC supporters. So you reduce your volume of people who are coming to actually physically vote on the ballot paper to be counted in this election. That reduces your support, it reduces the base. Then the DA with its smaller support perhaps. But because when you talk to some of the people who monitor this, the DA is very diligent in getting every voter to the polling station, physically getting there and making sure they are voting.
So self-defeating tendencies for the ANC voter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So all I'm saying for now is that we are probably still talking the 40% game.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Sandile Swana, indulging us for this hour. And of course, let's close off this hour by taking you back to the floor, the results floor. Yolisa Njamela is standing by with the Democratic Alliance leader, John Steenhuisen. What's he saying this morning, Yolisa?
The IEC says this is the most peaceful election it has held in a very long time. The Commission does immediately concede that there have been challenges, and some of those challenges include time. They didn't have a lot of time to prepare for these elections. Ordinarily, the IEC would have about 80 days, give or take, from the time of proclamation of the elections to the voting day. In this case, they had about 42 days, in fact 42 days to be exact, for preparations for these elections. You'll remember that other political parties wanted these elections to be postponed to next year, February. Hence, there were those delays. Now, coming back to today, the numbers are starting to trickle in. In fact, they're not even starting to trickle in. They're coming in thick and fast, and there are a lot of political party leaders here on the floor in the Nerve Center, a lot of them showing some somberness in their faces. We have John Steenhuisen, the leader of the Democratic Alliance. I'm going to grab him so that we have a conversation over here together, because John and I have a height challenge. He's much shorter than me and I'm much taller than him, so I constantly have to stand far away from him. John, thank you for joining us this morning. First, let's start with the issue of your federal leader, Helen Zille, who federal chairperson. John is correcting me there. Federal chairperson Helen Zille, who was accosted by policemen outside a voting station because they were accusing her of campaigning within the precinct. First, what is your reaction to that and how she was handled?
Well, I think it was very unfortunate what happened, and I think that there's now a case that's been opened by Ms. Zille against the police officer concerned. I think there's also some concerns around the presiding officer and the motivation there, but that investigation will get to the bottom of it. But I don't think that any police officer should treat any woman in South Africa with the violence and force that was used against Ms. Zille, and I think it was very unfortunate. But we'll get to the bottom of it, and there will be consequences.
Oh, Ms. Handel, anyone for that matter, John. Tell me, the voter turnout is quite low, and it's very disappointing. Could it be the case of South Africans no longer having hope in political parties or the political system, in fact?
Yeah, obviously we want to see what the final results are like before we are able to make a call on turnout, etc. But yes, it looks like it's low. I think there's a bigger problem in South Africa. I think there are no consequences for wrongdoing. We've had the Sariti Commission of Inquiry, we've had Watergate landings, we've had the Nkandla Commission, we've got the Zondo Commission underway. No politicians go to jail for stealing money. There are no consequences. Even when we do manage to get them in jail, they're given medical parole and they're out. So I think South Africans have got really tired of lack of consequences in South Africa for wrongdoing, and I think they've expressed their dissatisfaction there. I think what South Africa needs is a good dose of consequence management. Start putting some of those people that are responsible behind bars so people can see there is consequences for bad behavior in our political spectrum.
You've also quite criticized the Independent Electoral Commission for certain issues. Tell us about those, John.
Well, look, I mean, I just think that let's just go back a little bit. This is a IEC that have got one job. Their one job is to hold an election in a free and fair way and get people out to vote. They've had 5 years to prepare for this, and yesterday was a complete and utter shambles from beginning to end from the IEC. But not surprising, they've done everything they can this year to prevent us from trying to have an election this year. You may recall they told us that we were going to be in the midst of the fourth wave and that we weren't going to be able to leave our homes. Well, the transmission rates are the lowest, as we said, and it is a completely good time to have an election. So I think there's going to have to be some consequences for the IEC as well. The voter management devices were a complete and unmitigated failure. They knew there were going to be a problem when the special vote system started. Why on earth did they not address those problems ahead of the long queues, disenfranchising a lot of voters, people being turned away that were actually registered to vote there? And I think that we're going to have a good hard look at the IEC and their conduct. I certainly, as soon as we get back to Parliament, will be making sure that Parliament summons the IEC to come and account. They are a Chapter 9 institution. They're accountable to Parliament. And I think there's going to have to be some serious introspection about whether we've got an electoral agency in South Africa capable of delivering a free and fair election, particularly given the issues that we saw yesterday.
What are the main issues that you'd want to flesh out that happened yesterday and that you're mainly concerned about?
Well, the voter management devices, one, were a complete and unmitigated failure. They were the large reason why there were long queues. It's very clear that when the IEC allowed for online registrations and the like, that the data was compromised. People who registered in one place found that they were on a voter's roll, sometimes in different municipalities. How is that possible? The issue around the staffing of the stations, etc., some of the stations without electricity and lights. This is really not what you expect from an agency that has 5 years to prepare for something and only has one job in South Africa. You know, it's not like any other of the Chapter 9 institutions. Their one job is to ensure free and fair elections. They get a lot of money from national government to do so, and I'm not sure we're getting value for money, certainly if I look at yesterday's performance.
The numbers are coming in thick and fast, John. How's it going? Your stronghold, the Western Cape, you seem like you're doing well. Nelson Mandela Bay, what are the other areas looking like? Yeah,
it's looking good. I'm very glad that we've retained Midvaal, we've retained the city of Cape Town. I think we're looking good in a number of other municipalities. We won Eersterus, the by-election, one ward we lost in the by-election back from the Patriotic Alliance. So we made inroads in Potchefstroom again. We've won 2 wards back from the Freedom Front there. But for me, the most encouraging thing is to see the growth in urban and peri-urban ANC wards, where we're doubling and trebling some of the votes that we got even in 2016, never mind 2019. And I think that's very, very encouraging to see.
It's too early to tell, though, isn't it?
Very early to tell, and these are the first blush of the results, and they will start to flesh out later. But certainly, if the trend continues, I think the DA is going to have a very good result, and we'll be very, very happy with that result at the end of the day. But the big story is the implosion of the ANC. I mean, if you look at the board there, the ANC aren't above 50% in any of the major metros in the country, and I think it's going to open up a huge opportunity there for us to be able to perhaps build coalitions. But again, that's a story for a bit later in the day.
In 2016, the ANC imploded yet again, and a whole lot of their supporters stayed at home instead of voting for you. Why do you think they're not choosing you or other parties when they are angry with the ANC?
Well, as I say, I think that if you look at those VDs that I've spoken to, they have come out and we've doubled and trebled our support there in ANC wards. So that is a very, very positive sign. I think there's still a lot of dynamics in the country. I think there's still a lot of people who are emotionally tied to the ANC, that can't bring themselves to vote against it and would rather just stay at home. And I think that's certainly going to be the story of this election again, a huge stay away. Even in places like eThekwini, we've won 2 wards of the ANC already, Ward 11 and then another ward in Chatsworth. We won that off the ANC. We hope to win a lot more. So I think that their supporters just don't feel enthusiastic to come out and vote for them.
When I took a jab at the results earlier on, it seemed to me like the Freedom Front Plus is taking a bit away from your constituency. I was looking at the Northern Cape, I looked at Mpumalanga and Northwest. Did you not vulligate in those areas?
No, we did vulligate in those areas, and you'll see like a place like Ekurhuleni, we've been able to halve the Freedom Front support there. I think if you look at the 2019 results as well, you'll see that we've been able to claw back significant votes there. But even then, on the other case, we've grown in other communities, which is very, very important as well. So that offsets any nibbling away by some of the smaller parties if you're able to grow your vote, particularly in those wards I'm talking about, ANC, urban and peri-urban wards. If we can grow the vote there, it's a huge offset on anything that the smaller parties may nibble away and fray at the edges.
It's a few days to go before we get that final tally, John, but are you relatively happy with what you're seeing?
I'm comfortable where we're at the moment. Obviously, as I said, it's early days, and you've said it's early days, still a long way to go. But I'm very comfortable about where we're at the moment. I'm very comfortable at what our internal polling is telling us the trends are looking like. And I think there's going to be some surprises yet in the course of the next 2 days.
You're likely going to be here at the NEF Centre for the longest time, so we will chat again.
Yes, definitely.
John Steenhuisen, thank you so much for chatting with us this morning. Des, you know, one tries to stay away from putting on the colours of the political parties, and now today, for some reason, I'm Action SA and the Good Party. But let's take it back to you for now.
Thank you so much, Yolisa. And let's now go to Kaya. Kaya, you're also on the floor. What are the latest developments there?
Well, that's right, Desiree. So stakes are definitely high here, right at the NEF Centre. So quite a number of political leaders are coming here to observe the developments. And joining us now is the General Secretary of, in fact, the Secretary General of the EFF, Marshall Dlamini. So once again, sir, 8.95 so far from your party. What do you make of that performance so far?
Morning to you and morning to the viewers at home. Look, it's still early days. So far, we are still in the areas where there's improvement. In some areas, you can see positive results already coming from the Limpopo province. But it's still early days, so we don't want to rush it and start making our voters and everyone panic. It's still early days. Only 18% has been counted. So we'll see. We are here to monitor the results, but we are confident that eventually, when that final vote has been counted, the EFF would have taken some of the municipalities, would have made strong presence all over the country. So we're not shaken at all.
And just once again, sir, I mean, obviously these elections have been characterized by a number of hiccups as well, a number of unrest. You had areas like in KwaZulu-Natal where about 20 voting stations open late and about 19 voting stations in areas like in the Eastern Cape due to unrest. How do we try and improve? How do people try to make sure that they voice their issues in other occasions as opposed to subverting the will of those who want to vote?
Look, I think there needs to be more efficiency in those that are running the institutions of this country, starting with the IEC. As we speak now, in the areas of Inanda, the communities have closed voting stations because the presiding officers, they are refusing to declare results. They just say no, they can't tally up the results. So even communities, actually it's getting worse because the more communities they start marching towards voting stations now, it's a sign that things might get out of hand. So we want IEC to be effective. They must go to the ground and make sure that there's work there, because this anxiety and keeping people waiting and people they remember they are residing around those voting stations and they want them to be declared. Once they suspect that there's some shenanigans that are taking over in voting stations, we don't want to see the situation that is currently happening in Inanda and Mlaza as we speak now. But overall, the way areas, and again, it's the efficiency of the IEC. They must make sure that they do their work. In some areas they might have not been prepared, but look, overall I think the voters, our party agents, everyone is there. We are trying to make sure that everything else, the situation is calm, and then we can get these votes declared without any hectic issues.
And it wasn't a very easy time. There was a point where your party also was calling for the postponement. I mean, we saw about IEC had about 42 days to make sure that these elections do happen. So, but you have seen a bit of success from your party, over years where you have recorded a certain progress, as it were. So what do you attribute that to? Is it because your party is really gaining traction on the ground? Is it how you're speaking to South Africans? How you're resonating with them?
Look, we are building a party with its solid base. We are all over the country. That's why we contested all 4,468 wards in the country, and we are slowly building the organization, and people are understanding our manifesto. The challenge with this election is that obviously due to unforeseen issues, including the COVID-19, is that normally we would have a 1 year preparation for elections where we've got internal preparations, internal campaigns where we're setting up our structures, and then we do external. But everything now we had to bundle it in 1 month when there was this uncertainty in terms of when the elections were. And ours was scientific when we said let's postpone the elections, but now it doesn't matter anymore. We're not even complaining about that. We believe we put our biggest and strongest campaign on the ground under the circumstances. So we're no longer talking about if the elections were in February, this is how we could have performed. We are here now. This is a forecast. We're happy with the campaign that we put on the ground. That's why we're still saying, even with the results, let us not panic. It's still early days. Let us watch as the day goes. You'll see our results. They are coming. We know for a fact that EFF voters, they went to the ballot. The ones that managed to speak to, they went to vote, and the results will come as the day goes. So we're not panicking. We're not dealing with the issues of what happened in terms of postponement. We've passed that stage. We contested these results, and we're happy with the campaign that we put on the ground, and we believe that we delivered the best campaign. Our manifesto was our best manifesto. It resonated with our people because it talked to the immediate issues that our people were talking about of service delivery, land, jobs, everything. It was covered in our manifesto because it was drafted by them anyway. For us, it was just to put it together, and then we put our manifesto to our people. So it's still early days. We're not panicking. Already, the words that we have now, they've already passed our 2016 margin. So we're not in a crisis. Just wait and see as the day goes.
And just before I let you go, Sir, EFF played a very critical role in the metros. You look at Tshwane, you look at Joburg as well, where you were in coalition governments. So do you think this time again you're going to retain that particular status as a kingmakers, or you're looking at the outright majority?
No, we're still looking at the outright majority. That's why I'm saying it's still early days. The Tegune has not come in. Johannesburg, we are watching it because it's only the areas where our strongholds, they've not come in. Here in Tshwane, the areas where we're very strong, they've not come in. So we're still going for total outright. And Neguruleni, we're still confident that we're going to do well there. So it's still early days. We're not even at a stage of talking coalitions or anything. We are still here in the results center. The reason we're here because we know we're confident. We believe in our campaign, and that's why we're here in the results center. Otherwise, if we're not sure, we would be sitting somewhere hiding and doing all sort of things. But we're here because we know what's going to, the results that are going to come out. So everyone must just relax. The results are coming. Let's see midday. We're here. We'll speak to you, and the results will be showing there.
All right. Thank you so much indeed. Of course, that's the Secretary General of the EFF, quite optimistic about what lies ahead, but also allaying the fears, saying there is no need to panic. So I do believe my colleagues in Durban, they are standing by to give us the latest from KwaZulu-Natal.